This is the Fantasy Roadshow. Let's go.
Hey-o.
How about them roadies? How about that roadie sandwich that Ryan got at the roadie sandwich stove?
Oh, yeah, that shit was scrumptious. Scrumdiddlyumptious.
Did you eat it?
Yeah. Oh, it was delicious. Egg sandwich. It's fucking phenomenal.
on it?
I got
What
it
was
at
on the roadie?
Augustino's Rock and Roll Deli and Grill.
And you saw it and you were just like, gotta get it
Oh,
for
I'm
the
like,
roadies.
I was like, what am I
No-brainer.
going to get to eat? I'm like scrolling through the menu and I see roadie scramblage. I said, what?
I'm
what?
gonna give me a roadie scramblage.
You need to give me one of them roadies. Give me
Wow.
about two of them. About
You
two
do
treat
them.
them motherfuckers.
2 treated roadie scrambages.
Welcome in, everybody. It's another
Roadies.
episode of the Fantasy
You
Roadshow.
always say everybody, roadies.
Yes, I'm talking
Roadies.
roadies. I'm talking everybody out there that is tuning in for the first time that
everyone
is
else.
now
Roadies
a roadie.
only.
If you're tuning in for the first time and you're watching this, you are now considered a roadie. Okay,
Roadie,
just so you are aware of that.
roadie or die.
Roadie or die. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. We are your hosts. My name is Ryan. This is Mike Kulz. And you can find us on Twitter at fantasy_trucker, at fantasy or at Kulz_sports right there. And follow the show at Fantasy Roadshow and check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/sportsethos.
Yeah, let's get some followers, huh? We need some Twitter follows.
Oh, yeah.
So we got the roadie breakfast sandwich. That was a huge moment. Ready to get into the NFC. That's what we're doing here today.
Yes, we are.
So I don't know what else. What else is going on? You're off today, hitting the road tomorrow, going back to St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm at home today, enjoying my little weekend vacation every weekend when I come home and relax. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be back on the road, heading to St. Louis, Missouri for the last time, I believe. Later on in the week, I'll be going to Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, and then next week we'll see what happens. The week after that, could be coming to a city near you. Be on the lookout for the Fantasy Trucker.
Yeah, we need you to hit the road.
Oh, I'll be on the road. Be on the lookout, blowing that horn.
Awesome.
But yeah, so today we're talking NFC West. Going to get into it, and without further ado, all right, Mike. At one time in previous years, this was considered the best division in football, and what a fall from grace, because I don't think it is anymore. Now,
Certainly
obviously,
not.
Yeah, they have one of the best teams in the NFL with the 49ers.
Maybe.
But, talk to me. Why don't you go ahead and start us out? How do you see this division shaking out? I feel like it's pretty obvious to me, but I'm curious to see what you think.
So Niners, potentially one of the best teams in football. I'm not even completely sold. A lot of things went really well for their defense last year to play it that way. There wasn't a lot of injuries. They have a new D coordinator now. I'm not completely sold that they're going to be the best. I mean, they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC because it's such a cupcake conference. I was just looking at the standings. I'm like, all right, yeah, they're better than everyone in the NFC South. Better than everyone in the NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Cowboys, Eagles, and they're better than certainly, Giants, Commanders. So top 3 team in the NFC for sure.
Yeah.
But I really am not sold on them. I don't think they have it figured out at quarterback.
Yeah, I think the fact that everyone's
sorry, go ahead.
No, the fact that everyone's just chalking them up as the number 1 NFC team, I think is kind of bullshit.
Quarterback.
There's a reality where Brock Purdy is trash. I mean, he threw a bunch of interceptions, and then there's a reality that Trey Lance just doesn't put it together. And then Sam Darnold is who we've seen in previous years where he's just hasn't shown that he's a good quarterback. So, yeah, there's a lot of great pieces around him, but there's a chance that they just don't have it this year.
Yeah, we're in an NFL nowadays where you need a high-end quarterback to win championships. So if they can't figure that out, which it seems like they haven't, I mean, I don't know what to think. I have Niners at 11-6. So, still getting over that 10-win mark, but honestly, they have a really easy schedule.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks are overrated. The Rams, I think, have a bounce back year. But anyways, I have Seahawks at 8-9, and I have the Rams at 8-9, and then I have the Cardinals at 1-16. So, yeah, I'm
1-16, huh?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are going to be really bad, and I don't know that we're going to even see Kyler Murray play this year. I mean, I just think that I think the Cardinals are going to be in a situation where Kyler Murray, comes back potentially week 6 or 8, but they're 0-6 or 0-8, so they're just like, well, let's shop around Kyler and see if a team like the Falcons, if Ritter hasn't been able to figure it out, and they think they can bring in a Kyler Murray and win that division in the NFC South. Or, I mean, I don't know that the 49ers would look for him, but that's a team that's in searching for a quarterback. I don't think they would trade him in the division either, but Falcons would certainly be a team. Who else? I mean, who knows about the Titans, the Raiders? There are teams out there that I would say probably more so the Titans that could. I don't know. All I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals do not see Kyler Murray this year and they go 1-16. They get Caleb Williams and they have their new franchise quarterback. So, yeah, they're going to be really bad.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
What do you have?
I think that I just find that hysterical. You're giving one win. That's very, very plausible. But I didn't know I didn't think you were going to be that harsh with it. But
I'll tell you where the one win comes from too. It's from the week, November 12th or 19th. They play the Falcons at home, and then they play the at Texans. And I don't know exactly which one of those games it'll be, but they're going to win one in that 2-game stretch and lose every other game the rest of the year.
Yeah, I personally gave them a win on both of those games. I just think they can somehow pull – if they're going to pull any wins out of their ass, it's going to be in that pocket. What
do you have your standings? Tell me what you got.
So I have the 49ers winning the division at 12-5. I have the Seahawks coming in second at 9-8, right on that bubble to be in the playoffs, and then the Rams at 7-10, and the Cardinals at 2-15. So I gave them,
we're not too far off.
No, but I gave them at least 2 wins. I just feel like they're going to somehow win something. So
yeah, we're not too far off though. Niners, the over under for all these teams win totals. Niners are at 10.5. Seahawks are at 9.5. Rams are 6.5, and the Cardinals are at 4.5.
All right, so we're right there pretty much. The Seahawks, they could win. They could win a lot of games that I put them down as a loss for. They're like that team that when they played like the Lions and stuff, it's a toss-up. You really don't know who's going to win those games. So
yeah, now with that dog shit quarterback, Geno Smith. So.
Well, their defense isn't that good either, so it's like they're going to be letting up a lot of points. So
yeah, Geno blows. So then I think, I mean, this is a lot of juice, but minus 270 for the Cardinals to take last place in their division. I look at that as free money. I don't see a scenario, even with Kyler Murray, where the Cardinals aren't in the gutter of that division. So it's a new coach, complete rebuild. I don't think expectations are very high. I think the Rams are gonna be good and have a bounce back year from last year with a healthy team. So I think that minus 270 for the Cardinals to get last place is an absolute lock. And then you have the Niners minus 160 to take first. I like that too, just because I you know how I feel about the Seahawks, but to me in this division, the Cardinals are going to be picking first or second next year in the NFL draft, and they're the worst team in the league. If not, them, Bucks, Redskins are probably, for me, the 3 worst teams in the league off the top.
I mean, the
of my
Cardinals
head, so.
Cardinals could have the number 1 overall and the number 2 overall because they traded with Houston. So,
oh yeah, that would be
so
awesome for them.
It'll be interesting next year during the draft when we talk about it. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty chalky with how we have the division shaking out. But let's go top to bottom, right? Let's cover the 49ers. You want to start with the 49ers? Do you have any strong opinions? I can go ahead and start if you want.
No, I'm not as I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC because the NFC is so soft this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, AFC South, we've I don't think anyone, or NFC South, sorry, I don't think anyone really sticks out to me there. You have the Saints and the Falcons, but I'm not really too high on any of those teams. So as we talked about at the beginning of the episode, it's Eagles, Cowboys, and Niners are really the main competitors in this conference for me. So I think with the quarterback situation not looking very good, and then that defense is incredible, but you lost D'Amico Ryans to the head coaching job of Houston, and then they just didn't have any injuries last year on that defensive side of the ball. So that was very fortunate. They have an easy schedule and an easy division. So, I mean, you're getting 2 wins from the Cardinals, certainly, and then most likely, let's call it 3-1 from the Seahawks and Rams. So, if you go 5-1 in your division, you're going to be in a good spot in the standings.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to really say about them.
Just a quick run through for me. I'm not really drafting any of the 49ers quarterbacks. I'm just going to let that play out on everybody else's teams. I'm not taking a chance on Trey. Brock doesn't look good. Sam Darnold's lost in the mix here. So that's just too uncertain for me to take a chance. CMC is a great first-round pick. And Elijah Mitchell's one of the handcuffs in football. So if you have CMC, you should be trying to grab Elijah Mitchell. And with the wide receivers, I mean, we've been pretty vocal all offseason that we think Brandon Ayuk is the best wide receiver in the room. And he's going to have another statistical season that proves that. I think we both agree on that. But Debo's definitely going to have a bounce-back year from what he did last year. I firmly believe that, but still play second fiddle to Ayuk. And Kittle is a pretty safe option at tight end, but I just don't like where he's being drafted. We like going elsewhere at the position later on or early. So that's just a quick rundown that I have for the fantasy outlook on the 49ers.
Yeah. McCaffrey, I think he's going to be going in the top 4 picks in fantasy drafts, and I'm out on that. I think he's going to be the RB3. So I'm taking Bijan and I'm taking Barkley before I'm taking CMC this year. I've talked about it. I don't think that he's going to be a workhorse like he's been in the past. I think he's going to play as much football as he needs to win the game. And then, they like Elijah Mitchell. If Elijah Mitchell's running the ball well one game, he's going to get 18 carries. We saw it last year.
Yeah.
In their first game together. So in my mind, it's like, why would you burn out McCaffrey early in the season when you're going to be deep into the playoffs, and that's when you're going to let him rip. So, if they are in games late, he's going to be on the field. If they're not, you're going to see more Mitchell. You're going to see some TDP, maybe some Jordan Mason. So because of that, McCaffrey's incredible and he has those fantasy cheat codes, but I just don't expect him to get full loads like we've seen from him in the past, and that's the only reason why I'm higher on the other two.
Yeah, it's not just the full load. Like look at all the other running backs that are being drafted in the first round. You talked about Bijan. Seems to be like going to be the workhorse. Saquon, workhorse. Austin Eckler, workhorse. Like all these guys have a stranglehold to that position, and Christian McCaffrey is just like you said. We think he's going to be utilized at like important downs. He's definitely not going to be getting the ball 25, 30 times a game. Yeah,
it's just going to be so much more depending on the game and how the game is flowing, I think. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like Chubb's going to have a pretty good workload there. Like I just think with how good they are on defense, and if they can get out to some leads and they have a stranglehold on the game in the second half against some of these shitty teams that they're playing, then why put them in danger's way when Mitchell's running the ball well? It's just, I think that, yeah, I mean, I've already said my piece there. So
yeah,
on the receiving room, yeah, I'm trying to roster Ayuk as much as I can at his ADP. I think he's the wide receiver 1 on that team. Debo, yeah, he could have a bounce back year. He's awesome. He was probably a little dinged up last year, most of the year, but his workload, his position kind of did change on the team, bringing in CMC, not running the ball or seeing the backfield as much. And he's always going to be involved in the offense, and he's a big playmaker, but he's so physical that, hard to trust his health, as we've seen that issue in the past. But what I find interesting is the Vegas line. So they are basically dead even across the board on Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle.
Really?
Ayuk has 59.5 receptions, Debo 59.5, Kittle 57.5. Ayuk 775.5 yards, Debo 725.5 yards, and then Kittle at 675.5 yards. So all separated by 50 yards, Ayuk getting the most. And then Ayuk and Debo both have 4.5 touchdowns, and Kittle's got 5.5. So, that Vegas basically expects the exact same output, or at least put them that way here with their preseason lines. But
yeah,
I like Ayuk certainly more than, and that just confirms, my thoughts, our thoughts on Ayuk is that he's getting drafted a couple rounds, maybe 2-3 rounds after Debo. And Vegas views them as essentially statistically the same. Actually, Ayuk 50 yards more. But yeah, so, and then you have Kittle, which I just think he's aging a little bit. He plays extremely physical. He's a great blocker. I've said it a million times. He's the heartbeat of that offense. So you are going to have to get him going to get that momentum on the offensive side of the ball. So he will be involved, and when he catches the ball, he's electric. But it's tough to be that physical for that long in this league. So Kittle more than some of those other veteran tight ends. I think you're starting to see that aging process a little bit more because of his physicality.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's the Niners for me. I mean, I saw Jake Moody went 0 for 2 and missed a couple big kicks.
Oh no.
I like Moody. I think he's going to be awesome. So, if you're drafting kickers, he would be one that I'd be interested in, because I think defense gives them a lot of opportunities to score. And I don't know that their offense is that good. Their quarterback is that good. Their offense is great. Their quarterback sucks. So maybe you get some field goals there and don't need that many points to win games with the defense. So Moody's someone interesting, but yeah. My thoughts on the 49ers.
Okay. Just to wrap it up real quick, I do want to gauge on where you're at with the quarterback situation. I know early on you had a very strong opinion, and you made that very, very well known out there. So I just want to check in. Has it changed at all? Are you still with your same opinion? Or are you has anything changed?
That's my opinion. My opinion is the same. I still think Lance is the best quarterback, skill wise on that team, or at least has. I shouldn't even say that. I've never been like a huge Lance guy. I just think he is the one that has like the athleticism and the potential to be the X factor at quarterback. That has that additional, part of his skill set that could, if he optimizes his potential, he could separate that offense from being, a Super Bowl winner to just a contender. I don't think Purdy. I think Purdy sucks, so he's not any better than Jimmy G. And Jimmy G couldn't win you a Super Bowl. Darnold, like, maybe has the best arm out of everyone we talked about, but like, I just think so. That's my opinion, but from what we're seeing from the Niners front office is like Purdy is going to get a shot regardless. Lance was able to start the preseason game, but that has to do with Purdy's arm. I don't know. I think it seems like Purdy's going to start, and I just think it's going to be a failure. I think he's a shitty quarterback. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. He's going to lose the job at some point this year.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too.
Not the franchise quarterback. So then they're going to go to Darnold or Lance, and probably if I'm the coach of that team, I might start the year with Darnold, to be honest. I think you need to give Lance his shot. I really do. And, I don't know. It's a mess. I don't really know what to think. We'll see how it plays out. I know Purdy hasn't really had a great camp, but they still seem to be rolling with them. So
I was hoping to see better things out of the camp from Purdy, especially after coming off this injury. But everything I've heard has just been pretty negative. He hasn't been throwing well through interceptions and at those combined practices and stuff. And I mean, to me, yes, you're absolutely right. Trey Lance is the most athletic quarterback in that room, but I think pure quarterback wise, it's Darnold. So I think Purdy probably starts the season, makes some boneheaded mistakes. They pull him out, and Darnold finishes the season. But again, I don't want any one of them on my fantasy team, so I'll watch from the sidelines.
We can say that. We can say that. We can say that about Lance. We can say that about Darnold. But like, we don't know what either of them look like in this offense. We know what Purdy looks like. We got 6-7 games of him last year. Lance, we haven't really seen play. He played 2 games. Right. He got injured in his second game last year.
And preseason, you always want to take it with a grain of salt. You never really want to take too much away from it. But from what I saw on the field,
preseason, he didn't run with any starters, and he didn't run the Niners offense. Like, they weren't running the ball. He was just throwing the ball. So, it seemed like they just wanted to put him in there and see how he threw the ball. But the Niners offense is fucking running the ball. It's not a high risk throwing offense. That's why you've seen success with dog shit Purdy, with Jimmy G, is because they run the ball and they open up the offense and they put low risk throws out there for their playmaker or for their quarterback. And that's not the offense they ran. So it's like, you haven't seen him in the 49ers starting offense. He had
I agree with you.
Week 1 of last year, and then he got injured in horrible conditions in Chicago. So
from the same offense that Trey Lance was running, and from the same offense that Darnold was running in that same preseason game, I saw some great throws from Darnold, like really opening up, hit some guys right on the money. Just some stuff that I didn't see from Lance. So that's the only reason. That's what I'm taking away from that, is just, Darnold looks like the better passer, looks like the better player right now, and just has a better grasp on what to do with the ball. So, I mean, but you're right. It's not their offense that they're going to run during the season, and that's to be determined. We'll see how the rest of this plays out.
He's an older quarterback with a better arm. And we knew that. Everyone knew that.
Yeah.
That's what Darnold has been. And he hasn't really had an offense or a team like the 49ers. So, I mean, to me, I haven't seen anything that I didn't know. I just still think Trey Lance hasn't gotten a very fair opportunity in their offense than their team. So if Shanahan is very stubborn and in the fact that I just need Brock Purdy to come in and hand the ball off and make 5-yard throws, then that's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
And they're going to win games in a shitty NFC, and then they're going to play the Eagles or someone in the playoffs, and they're going to lose. And it's same fucking story.
You're
so
absolutely right.
Congrats, Kyle Shanahan. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's break down the Seahawks. I know we spent a little extra time on the 49ers, but I think that's fitting just because they're the best team in the division. So let's go down to the Seahawks. I know you've said it pretty lengthy, and but you hate Geno Smith and you think he's dog shit. Do I have that accurate or what?
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah. He was. I mean, we saw what he did last year. He's got more weapons. I can't wait to see what happens and if he's actually able to, continue the success from last season. Geno Smith is being drafted very, very late. And me personally, as a second quarterback in certain leagues in a 2-quarterback system or a super flex, I'd be willing to take a chance on him just based on the output that he had last year and the continued addition of more weapons. But I know, Mike, you don't agree with me, so that's fine. But what about these running backs? What about Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet? How do you see that?
Sorry, I was looking up our bold predictions tab /pod bets. What were you saying I don't agree with?
Taking a chance on Geno. So I just mentioned that in a 2-quarterback or super flex league, he's someone I'd be willing to take a chance on later on in drafts as my QB2, just based on the output he had and them adding more weapons for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see our Geno bet on here. I know we have.
We do have something. We got to go through the archives because I know we had something for Geno, but I do not remember what it is.
Yeah. We have a Swift Penny and we have a Geno, and I just don't remember what they were exactly. But anyways, what is my thoughts on Geno? I think he sat for the last decade for a reason. I think that Pete Carroll is maybe more of a quarterback whisperer, and that system makes quarterbacks look really good. Given how Russell's been playing in Denver and how a shitty 10-year backup quarterback who probably never would have expected himself to do this either. And he's in an awesome offense with all the weapons you could ever ask for. So should he succeed this year? Yeah, probably. Do I think he's going to? No, I think he's bad at quarterback. And I think that if they have to rely on him to win games, it's not going to happen. So Vegas has him at 3,800 and a half passing yards, 26 and a half touchdowns, and 11 and a half interceptions. I would probably go under, and over. Under on yards and touchdowns, and then over on interceptions. Yeah, I don't know. I've said it before. Ryan, are you frozen? Ryan's frozen.
There you go. I got you. You back?
Yeah,
okay.
You're back.
Jeez, sorry about that. I guess that's.
You were frozen, right?
Well, I lost you too. You were frozen, so I don't know what happened. So
it said I don't know if I was still recording for me or not, but yeah, I was just talking about Geno, 3,800 and a half passing yards, 26 and a half touchdowns, and 11 and a half interceptions is what he's sitting at with those Vegas lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think he's going to throw for 4,000 yards. I don't think he's going to have, I just think he sucks. So, yeah.
What about let's go into the running backs. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I feel like it's a pretty hot topic on how this is going to, play out. 2 very good running backs, both very young, with kind of similar skill sets, so to speak. But how do you see this playing out? Do you think it's going to be 50-50?
No.
Is one going to play a better role than the other? What's your gauge on this?
Yeah, Walker. I think Walker's the lead guy there. I think he's going to have the bigger role. I think it's going to be, 65-35. I think Walker's going to have a lot of success. I think he has a relatively, I don't want to call it short leash, but like when you have a guy like Charbonneau who they like that much, you got to perform well this year to keep that job. So as long as he's
Definitely.
running like he was last year, then it's going to remain that way. That being said, like I think I'm willing to take both of those guys in fantasy at a good value. I'm not going to reach for either of them, but I think they could both be good fantasy assets, and their ADP is pretty appropriate. Like Ken Walker's ADP to me is pretty nice because you have half of the fantasy world saying like, "Oh, Charbonneau is going to take this job from him," which to me is just like kind of ignorant. But
Yeah.
I like them both at value. So I think they're going to be a good running back room. I think they're going to be heavily involved because Gino's arm isn't that good. So, close games, they're both going to be involved.
Yeah. I just want to preface for people that this is a familiar situation that we saw a couple years back with Seattle. They drafted Rashad Penny in the first round when they had Chris Carson, and they continued the season with Chris Carson as the lead back. So if you're looking at the history says Ken Walker is going to be the guy until they choose otherwise. So,
I mean, he was great last year,
He really was. He really was.
He's a great running back, and he was
like
they like to have two good running backs. That's how Seattle kind of rolls. It's kind of similar to what the Saints do, So
I will say though they don't have a great offensive line. PFF ranks them in like the bottom percentile, and they have a pretty tough schedule for running backs. So we'll see how that plays out. But I agree with you. I just think I don't know. I want to see how this plays out with who gets goal line carries, whether it's Ken Walker or Charbonnet. How much is Charbonnet involved in the passing game? Because Ken Walker doesn't seem to have that in his arsenal. So I could easily see Charbonnet propel himself to be the more valuable running back by the end of the year. And I just can't wait to see what happens there. What about wide receivers? They have, in my opinion, the best trio of wide receivers. I feel like before this, it was Cincinnati with Jamar Jefferson, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. But with the addition of Jackson,
Said Jamar Jefferson.
Jamar Chase,
Justin Jefferson. Awesome wide receiver.
Yeah, my bad. I misspoke. But you know what I'm saying. The Cincinnati trio, I think, was trumped with the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba. And, I mean, this three wide receivers are pretty deadly, man. And they all kind of have their own – they all do different things. You know what I mean? So, how do you see this playing out?
In order for them to perform like the top trio in the league, then they're going to need a quarterback to get them the ball. So because of how much better Burrow is than Gino, I think from a performance standpoint, the Bengals still have them beat. Like their numbers, the Bengals wide receiver numbers will be better this year because of Gino and how much he sucks. But yeah, I don't know. DK, Vegas has DK at 75.5 catches, 900.5 yards, 7.5 touchdowns. Lockett 72.5, 825.5, and 5.5 touchdowns. And then JSN 57.5 catches and 60.5, 650.5 yards. So, I mean, that's 2,400 yards combined there. I don't know. I mean, I'm out on all of them because of the way I think of Gino. So, I don't really have much to say. I'd like to hear what you think, just because I feel the way I feel about Gino, and that's not going to change.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of things. I think Gino's still a good quarterback. I mean, from what we saw him throw for over 4,000 yards last year, placed the ball pretty well. He was one of the most accurate quarterbacks with the deep ball last year. So I think I don't know. DK Metcalf is being drafted too high. I don't like where he's being drafted. But I like Lockett. Lockett's his whole career, he's just been this steady Eddie kind of trustworthy wide receiver, high floor, low ceiling type of guy. And JSN just has a huge ceiling, in my opinion. I think, he could easily end up being a really, really good receiver and the best freshman receiver this year, or rookie receiver, so to speak. So, but I think
we've only seen him in 2 and 3 wide receiver sets, though. So if that's the case, then he's not going to be on the field as much as we would hope for him to have that high of a ceiling.
Yes. I do think that depending on how well he performs early on in those 3 wide receiver sets, he's going to work himself into a 2 wide receiver set here and there. And I think having JSN and DK Metcalf on the outsides could bode well, better than having Lockett and DK. But I mean, we'll see.
It would be so hard for for Pete Carroll to sit Tyler Lockett. I mean,
I don't know if it's sitting. It's more so just having a different package put together for JSN to be on the field.
It is quite literally sitting him if he was to sit him down in 2 or 5. If he was a sub in JSN for Lockett in 2 wide receiver sets, that is sitting him.
For one play, I mean, I don't.
Drive.
No, I'm not even saying a full drive. I'm talking about a package, like one play, putting him in just to get him on the field more. They're going to be designing plays for JSN to get the ball. They're going to be manufacturing touches for him. He's that type of player. So I could just see them easily putting some packages together where he's on the field a little bit more than he should be. And if that means subbing Lockett out for a play here and there, I wouldn't consider that sitting Lockett by that aspect. But
yeah,
I mean, we can agree to disagree.
Well, no, it's just factual. Like, it's going to depend on how much he comes in at 2 at wide receiver sets. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I feel like his ceiling's a little bit capped this year because of that, and there's just no way that you take Lockett off the field with what he means to that Seahawks team. He's the guy that's been there forever. But yeah, I don't know. If I actually liked Geno Smith, then I would like where DK's getting drafted. That's like kind of a pocket with that. I'm not really in love with anyone there from the wide receivers. So, if I thought Geno Smith was a good quarterback, then I would say he is definitely a 1,000-yard receiver and close to 10 touchdowns. I think
he had just over 1,000 last year with 6 touchdowns on 140 targets.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I liked Geno, then I would say I would be in on DK at that number, but I just don't. When you sit for 10 years in the NFL, I think it's pretty telling, regardless if you're on the Jets or not.
Wasn't in the greatest situations, but no, you're right. There's a reason he didn't start those seasons. So, but we'll see what happens. He needs to come off of a successful season with another successful one, and he has the weapons,
literally everything that you could ask for. So
and he did it last year. So we'll see what happens.
Go prove me wrong, Geno Smith.
All right, how about the Rams? How about them?
One other thing about the Seahawks. So
okay, go ahead.
I think Geno sucks. I have them at 8-9. You think Geno's good. You have them at 9-8. So, I mean, there's not really much of a difference in those two numbers. It could easily be, if it's 9-8 and 8-9, it's like, was Geno good, or was like, it's just pretty mediocre. So I don't know.
What was their win total last year? I don't have that in front of me.
Probably right around that. Let's see.
Yeah, and I mean, Geno was good then, so I think Geno has a very similar statistical year that he had last year. I don't think it's as good. I think there's some regression there, but right around 4,000. I don't know if he eclipses it.
Yeah, they were 9-8 last year. So
there you go.
So then, does he keep his job?
They extended him. They see a future with him. So if he has another year like he had last year, he keeps his job. If he completely falls apart,
They just continue to go 9-8, and they're cool with being a middle of the road team.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, Rams, I think they take a big step forward and kind of, last year was a disaster. Year before that was a Super Bowl. So you're going to see something in between there. That's why I have them at 8-9. I think Stafford's healthy and happy right now. So in order for him to, in order for this offense to get back on the right track, there's not much room for error. So you have Stafford, who is, top 5 quarterback 2 years ago. Cooper Kupp was by far the number 1 wide receiver. I think you're going to need to see Cam Akers have a huge year. And then Higbee's going to continue to be Higbee. Jefferson needs to step into that wide receiver 2 role. So, I like the chances of that if everyone stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That offense is not very different. It's Stafford, Kupp, Higbee, and then you have a wide receiver 2 of Van Jefferson instead of Robert Woods, and you have Akers there running the ball. So, who I think is a better talent than anyone that they've had. So I actually like the Rams, I think, a little bit more than the public views them.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's kind of how I see them overall. What do you think?
It's hard because I don't think the Rams are going to be a good team. Their defense pretty much ranks dead last, according to PFF, and they're just but it's hard because I like the players. I like Cam Akers where he's being drafted. I think he's a great value. I like drafting Cooper Kupp in the first round. I think he's got a good chance of getting back to that success he had a year ago or 2 years ago. And Stafford too, like he's being drafted like outside of quarterback 20. But I just think the offense is going to need to really perform well in order to win those games because of how bad that defense is. And I think that's going to produce a lot of fantasy points, negative game scripts.
Yeah. I am pretty much in on drafting all of these Rams players that we mentioned.
Yeah.
I just think that their reason why their ADP is so low is because the public views them very low. So there's going to be value. As he said, they're going to be playing from behind and throwing the ball a lot. So, yeah, I mean, I like Stafford. I think he's a great quarterback. You can get him as like the 22nd. I think he's QB 22, which is insane. He has a ceiling of QB 5, as we saw 2 years ago. So, yeah, I think Akers steps into that running back 1 role. I really like taking Akers in that pocket of running backs where he sits. I think Kupp has a great bounce back year if Stafford's there and healthy. And Higbee, we know what Higbee is. So, yeah, Stafford.
I mean, even grabbing Van Jefferson late in drafts is something, we've been doing a lot. And I think that's not a bad idea. He's going to be the number 2 wide receiver there. And even Puka had a pretty good preseason game over there. Scored a touchdown.
Yeah, Puka's awesome. I've been on Puka for a long time.
Yeah.
So Stafford has 50.5 passing yards, 22.5 touchdowns, and 12.5 interceptions. Akers 750.5 rushing yards with 5.5 rushing touchdowns. Kupp 107.5 receptions, 1,250.5 yards, and 9.5 touchdowns.
Oof.
So, Vegas has Kupp at a very high number there. Van Jefferson, 4.5 touchdowns, and then Higbee, relatively similar numbers to Kupp at 57.5, 50.5, or 500.5 yards and 4.5 touchdowns. So, you can get Higbee with a touchdown less and 150 yards less, according to Vegas, as tight end 15, where you're getting Kittle as tight end 5. So that's why I like Higbee. There's not much separation there in tight ends. One when you get to that point. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely worth a dart throw on how to be later on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with. Do you have anything else you want to add to the Rams right there?
No, I do not.
Okay. Let's wrap this up with the Cardinals. Abysmal. You have them winning 1 game. I have them winning 2 games. Is Kyler gonna come back? They could start 0-6, and then what do they do? I think this is gonna be one of the biggest questions in the beginning of this season. But one thing's for sure is they're a bad team. James Conner is getting older, but he's still a really good running back. And Hollywood Brown, I do like both of them. James Conner's being drafted. I'm not sure about his updated ADP right now, but it's, after 24, so he's being drafted outside the RB2s. He's considered an RB3, and he's going to be the guy there. Kind of a little workhorse on a shitty team. But I mean, that offense ranks pretty much dead last. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
I
then
don't have
Hollywood
much
Brown,
to
man.
say there. Yeah, I don't have much to say there either.
I know. That's why I want to go into the wide receivers. Hollywood Brown is where I want to talk about. The Cardinals, they're going to need to be throwing the ball a lot in order to stay competitive in these games. And Hollywood Brown, as we saw last year without Hopkins, I mean, he was averaging 18 points on 10 targets. And still averaging 7 targets without Murray. So who's ever playing quarterback, they're going to be finding a way to get Hollywood Brown the ball.
Yeah. Connor, I don't have much to say about him. I mean, it's just, I'm so off on the Cardinals that in order for me to draft any of them, it has to be at really good value. I think Connor could get a good workload, so I could see you wanting to take him if he falls.
Yeah, over the last 7 games, he averaged 20 points with 21 touches and 94 total yards. That was his average over the last 7 games.
So if he gets that kind of a workload, I mean, he could be great. Hollywood, if he's a target hog, it just depends who's throwing him the ball. Is it Colt McCoy? I don't know who he's going to even be quarterback all year. So
I don't know either.
Because the team, I'm just kind of off on the team, so I highly doubt you see any of them on my fantasy teams. Connor is projected with Vegas 700.5 rushing yards and 6.5 touchdowns. So to me, there's not much there. Mm-hmm. Hollywood 70.5 receptions, 800.5 yards, and 4.5 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably staying away from all of them. I like Trey McBride, but you don't need to draft him in fantasy drafts. So for me, it's Cardinals. As you heard, I have them at 1-16, and I usually don't like really rostering teams like that. So
yeah. Yeah, be on the lookout for this team, though. If they end up getting picks 1 and 2 somehow, some way, and they end up getting 2 prolific picks with Marvin Harrison and Caleb Williams or whatever, they're going to be immediate, contenders to win this division next year. So,
yeah,
we'll see what happens, but I think that's about it when it comes to the NFC West divisional breakdown. Do you have anything to wrap up with on this division? I think we pretty much hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah, Niners in first, Cardinals in last. Interesting to see if Seahawks or Rams can squeak in the playoffs. That's my summary there. Buckle up, baby.